Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the last episode of Code with Italians before the summer break. And what better way to end this season, I guess, than to have Doris back? Yes! More animation stuff! I'm so excited.
Yeah,
Hi,
I'm super excited
Doris.
to be here too. Hi. Hi,
Oh,
everyone.
man, this is gonna be awesome. So, as I was telling Doris before we started, I haven't looked into the stuff that we're gonna be talking about. So I'm gonna be asking the stupid questions on behalf of everyone, I guess. But if you do have questions, don't be afraid, even if you're afraid they might be stupid, they're not. Any question is a good question. We have a Slido, we have the link in the chat. You can just, well, the chat. You can just find it there. Please put all of your questions there so we will get to them once we have covered the initial discussion of what we're going to be talking about today with Doris. Um,
We
before,
already have trolls warming
unsurprisingly,
up warming
unsurprisingly,
up for the chat. Oh
before
man.
we get started with the hashtag content, Ivan, do you want to do the last Ivan thing of the season? Because I think we have a few
Yes.
exciting things to share today.
Do we? Oh yeah.
I mean, up to you.
Yeah. Well, let's try. Okay. So first thing first. Thanks, Daniel, for the sub. I just want to and also Mark Ellison, one of our longest subscriber and supporters. You can subscribe to the Twitch channel for free if you have an Amazon Prime subscription. I'm gonna just put a link in the chat. You can connect your Prime gaming account, your Twitch account, and then every month you have one subscription for free. If you decide to subscribe, we get a couple of dollars or something. I mean, we mostly buy stickers for you. And the stickers are the main prize of the giveaway that we run every week. If you are a subscriber, you also get a holo sticker that you cannot buy on the store. You can buy a bunch of stickers. One of our favorites is the invalidate and restart. I mean, this is so Android. But we have a bunch of them. We also have the sticker that comes with my T-shirt. The super meta sticker, and of course you can buy the T-shirts of our store if you like them. And we usually run also giveaways on YouTube. We were running the IntelliJ giveaway. We are gonna run the Save Money with Italian giveaway once again because we are giving away a ticket for DroidCon New York. If you want to go to New York in September and you save some money on the ticket for the conference, just stick with us. Maybe you are lucky and you get the ticket. If you are not that lucky to get the ticket, you still get the discount code that we already threw on Twitter. So you still save money with Italian, even if you are not getting the free ticket. Anything else?
I think there's one last thing to say, which is if you're looking at this video recorded and not live, don't worry, you haven't lost all the opportunities to win a ticket. We have a second ticket that is going to be given away on YouTube. Ivan will give you all the details at the end on what you need to do.
We are gonna run one giveaway for the VOD, so it's happening. So don't despair. Don't despair. Focus
Okay.
on the questions for the animation today.
Okay, perfect. Ivan, Doris, let's get started. I'm so excited.
One thing I don't know if Doris is seeing your screen share. I'm not seeing it.
Yeah,
I see you
was
and
seeing
everything is
it.
fine.
It was fine a second ago. Let me double check. Yeah, it's fine.
Well, I mean, I restarted Skype like 15 times, so maybe I just
works for me.
Wow.
It works on my computer, so
Cool. Okay.
clearly
So we are
ship it to production.
We're doing it. We're doing that. Okay. So basically now your laptop becomes the production machine. Okay. Basically.
Well, I guess What you could do is you can open Twitch and look at the screen share there.
Yeah. Thanks. Wow, that's the very healthy
I don't know what
environment.
else to say.
I mean, whatever. I'm gonna just pretend that I see things and I understand.
Well, actually, I think somehow the screen, the screen share has stopped.
Yeah,
On
now
my,
it has.
Yeah, let me do that again.
Okay, I can
Better.
see it
Now I
again.
see it.
Okay,
Perfect.
perfect.
Oh, Adam, thank you for the sub, by the way.
Thank you, Adam. Hi, Adam. Okay, so let's. Doris,
All
the
right, let's get
floor
started.
is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here today. I'm super excited about this new concept look-ahead layout that we've recently released. It was literally hot off the press from earlier this month. So today I'm excited to share a little bit more about look-ahead layout. I'll be sharing, why we built this thing and how it does work, and some of the use cases that it has unlocked for layout animations. And please feel free to ask any questions along the way. So why do we build this in the first place? It was actually motivated by this nested shared element use case on the right. If you notice that there's a kind of a nested situation for the shared element. On the outside, there's one shared element that's kind of blowing up into the full screen and then shrinking back down to slightly bigger than the icon size. And the icon itself is also a shared element. It's changing size and position. Initially, we're thinking we could probably build this with a multi-measure layout where we measure twice. The first time we'll measure what the shared element size is going to be, the final size. And then the second time will be changing the size to achieve the animation on every frame. But the nested situation is making this particularly challenging because as the outer parent is resizing, is replacing the child with the layout logic that it already has, and that frame by frame placement change is causing the child to have an interruption per frame for the placement animation, and then we see some strange artifact where the child is kind of lagging behind and occasionally lagging out of the parent. So we realize that in order to get reliable result for the placement, we have to do an additional placement pass as well. Therefore, we need a special layout that does a pre-calculation of both measurement and placement. So this is not to simplify things, but to give you an overall idea of sequence of events.
So simplifying is like this giant flow diagram, right?
You don't have to understand everything in the,
Okay.
in the diagram.
I'm pretty sure Chuck designed the diagram. I don't know, but this has Chuck vibes all over the place.
I'm flattered. Yeah, so this is what happens during a measure pass. The important thing to note here is this orange portion of the diagram, and that's specific to look-ahead layout. During the measure pass, we would look at whether this particular layout is a look-ahead layout, and if it is, we give it an additional look-ahead pass for the measurement, and then we would propagate that look-ahead measurement down the entire tree until we reach all the leaves. Down the entire subtree, I should say, the subtree that's defined by the look-ahead layout. And then once we finish that, we'll then go ahead and move onto the bottom portion of the diagram, which is the regular measurement. And similarly, for layout, same story. We would for look-ahead layout in all of the children in that subtree, we would also do a look-ahead pass for the layout before we do the actual placement. And there's actually more nuances going on for what happens during validation, and we do a lot of optimization there. But just in order not to confuse you, and for the sake of simplicity, I won't go into details on that. And the one takeaway here is that before the actual measurement and placement, you can count on the look ahead measurement and placement to have already happened. So you can use that result and then make changes as you need. So now that we know, by the time we measure and layout, we already have that target size and target position available to us. We can then do animation. Here, you've probably seen this or a variation of this in my tweet, but you probably haven't seen is this tiny little tap indicator on the single column. So what happens here is, can you see that? What happens here is that I'm tapping.
Can you put the slides full screen? Because maybe we can get a bit better view that way.
Let's see. Full screen. There we go.
Yes, great.
Cool. There's a tiny little tap indicator, but that's not important. The important thing is I'm tapping on the single column to change the layout, and as soon as the layout changes, we can calculate. We will be doing a look ahead pass and calculate what the target size and positions are for each of these items, and they're indicated with these wireframes on the right.
So
now, yeah.
What I'm understanding is that what look ahead layout is doing is when there is a recomposition, it's tracking where the items will end up being after the recomposition, but it also remembers where they were in the initial state.
It's calculating where they're going to be, and it's the reader's responsibility to track where they were, because that's something that's easy to track.
I can imagine, yeah. Conceptually, kind of seems to me like the animated layout transition of old, right? Where it would essentially run a diff between the present state and the target state.
Conceptually, that's the case, except it is more interruptible than that. In the past, what we had is this idea of suppressing layout. So whenever we have a layout change, we would try to animate towards that new layout and suppressing layout changes along the way until we reach that new layout. But if there is anything, any layout change that happened during that animation, you won't see it until the animation has finished. Then there's a jump at the end. With a look at layout, any layout change along the way will be having an additional look ahead pass to immediately tell you where the new size and position is. This to me is kind of analogous to how we use animatable. So the animatable is responsible for tracking the current value and the animation life cycle, and then whenever there is a new target, we'll just supply that new target to the animatable, and the animatable will know what to do.
Got it.
Cool. So now that we know where the target positions are and what the sizes are, all that's left to do is animating.
All that's left to do.
Yeah.
You make it sound easy.
So in order to achieve this animation that's on top, here are a few stages that needs to happen or that will happen in between. As you can see, as time goes on, so these different stages are laid out on a timeline. As time goes on, we're changing the size slowly to eventually get to the final size. Same with the position to achieve this smooth movement. Now, a little bit about the look ahead API. With the look ahead layout, there is a look ahead layout scope, and in the scope we provide two very interesting modifiers to allow you to observe one to allow you to observe measurement, the other one for placement. So this intermediate layout modifier is focused on the look ahead size. So when you create your own intermediate layout that's built on top of this, you can you will get the look ahead measurement as a target size. So if you look at this intermediate layout modifier, its shape is very similar to the layout modifier, where you have this measure lambda, and you get the measurable, the constraints, and then you need to return a measure result. But in addition, you get this target size, and with this target size, you can do more interesting things. You can animate to that target size. You can skip to that target size. It's your call, and it might make sense, in different situations to choose different solutions. Similarly, we allow you to observe the look ahead placement through the onPlace modifier. This is a new modifier that is in the scope of look ahead layout scope. And both the intermediate layout modifier and the onPlace modifier can be used anywhere in that subtree. So not just the direct children of the look ahead layout. And in the onPlace callback, you'll be getting both the coordinates for the look ahead layout and also the coordinates of the layout that you're looking at. And with these two coordinates, you can do interesting things like local position off to get the actual placement, or local look ahead position off to get the target placement relative to each other. And similarly, you can decide what to do with that information, and that's how we achieve the placement animation, the position animation.
When we're talking about placement, you're talking about specifically when you do, for example, in the layout modifier, where you calculate the size, you get the placeables, and then you say placeable.place, right? That's the onPlaced event, is when you say, okay, you are here.
Yeah, you could do that, or you could also use the offset modifier to offset your child. But yeah, that's the placement. It's more of a position of the coordinates in the look ahead layouts coordinate system. So all of the position changes will be relative to the look ahead layout.
Which are the layout coordinates that you get as a parameter to the onPlaced call here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Cool. So now here is a simple example. I'm kidding. This is not a simple example, but it is a simplified to fit on one slide. So let's say we want to build an animate constraints modifier, and what this modifier does is whenever its size changes, it will animate to that new size, and along the way it will animate the constraints that it uses to measure the children, so the children gets resized. So it's really just to resize itself and the children. So in order to do this, we need to create an animatable for the size animation and a target size, and we'll be observing this target size. Whenever the target size changes, we'll start an animation on that animatable. So in this launch defect, don't worry about the launch defect. This can be achieved with the animatable, but there's some corner cases that the animatable may get confused. Details. So here we're observing the target size through a snapshot flow. Whenever the target changes, we'll be launching a new job with the animate 2, so to change the animation target. So, and then finally we're using an intermediate layout, and we'll be receiving measurable constraints and then the look ahead size. We'll be updating the target size with the look ahead size, and this update will then later on kick off the size animation, and then we'll be reading from the animated size, reading the value from the size animation, and then we'll get the animated width and the animated height, unless the size animation has been set up yet, in which case that would probably mean that this is the first frame, the very first frame, in which case we'll just show the final size. That means we're not animating when the content first gets added to the tree, which is usually the desirable behavior. And then we'll be using this animated width and height to create a constraints, and then put that constraints in the measurable.measure. This will effectively change the what the children see their incoming constraints are, and then effectively resizing everything. So I will show a visual for this in a few slides, but this is how we could achieve animate constraints.
Can I see if I have followed along correctly by
Yeah.
rehashing what's happening here? So we have a size animation, which is the thing that is going to be in charge of interpolating the size changes as they go. We have the target size, which is a state where we will put whenever we need to change the size, that will hold the target value.
Yep.
Then I guess we can just for now skip the launch effect and go to the look ahead scope, because that is whenever there is an intermediate layout change that will store the new target size into the state, and then tell the composable to essentially place itself at the top left corner in this case, and just with the height and width that it's getting from the current animation, or if there's no ongoing animation from the target itself, it will just snap to the final result, and then the subsequent times that the size will change, it will actually animate between the different sizes. And then what this does when we change the target size, that will actually start or restart the animatable. So the interpolation responds to changes, I guess, even like mid-flight. So if I start animating a change again before the animation is completed, it will change the animation to target the new value.
Yeah, that's a great point to add, that this look at size could be changing during the animation, and that's when if in that previous example, if I were to tap between the single column and double column real quick, the layout would change, and then also along with that the look at size. So in that case, because the animatable is already built to handle any potential interruptions, so it's not something that the developers need to actively be worried about. So you can just stick that new target into the animatable, and then it should just do the right thing and handle the interruption and give you a smooth value. Cool. So in summary, look ahead layout is a relatively low level layout. You've seen that it takes a little bit of effort to set it up. This is meant to be a very, very fundamental level API, kind of designed to be powerful, but not necessarily optimized to be convenient. And since it sits at a lower level, we didn't feel that it has to be convenient. But we believe that it will unlock a lot of opportunities for more advanced layout animations. It is not an API that we expect everyone to use on a daily basis, because it does require a little bit pre-existing knowledge on layouts, modifiers, and such. But rest assured, we will be building convenient APIs, particularly animation APIs, on top of it, and along with that, a lot of cool examples.
So something like this is like a stepping stone and a prerequisite for you folks to be able to package some pre-made animations, like shared element is the obvious one here, but
yeah,
I guess other ones that might come later.
Yep.
So let's see what comes in Compose 1.4. No spoilers.
So I saw in the Slido, some folks are asking about what are some of the valid use cases for look ahead layout, and what are some of the exciting new features we're building. So I wanted to show some of the explorations that we're doing right now based on look ahead layout. And I wanted to stress on the explorations because these may or may not come to fruition. It's at very early stages. However, if you're particularly fond of any of the ideas that I'm about to show, please do let me know, and we can count that as a one upload. First of all, we have animate bounds. We are exploring the idea of animate bounds. The idea behind this is, wouldn't it be nice if, as we're changing modifier, like we do in here, we can also animate the size and position changes as a result of this modifier change? Wouldn't that be nice? So you can animate, between the, fill max size and the wrap content, or in between some fixed size to wrap content. So here we are doing kind of an animation between the a fixed size to wrap content. This code snippet is actually taken from the demo that I built for this visuals on the right. If you look at the nav rail, we want to animate between the version of the nav rail, the more verbose version with the text showing, and the more compact size, where the width is more defined by the icons and some padding around. Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't it?
And as you'll notice that because I'm animating the constraints here, this is the underneath animating the constraints for the nav rail. Because I'm animating that constraints, the indicators, the purple one and the pink indicator, is also nicely changing size. Here's another example with the animate bounds. On the left, both of these are animating size change in a flow layout. But on the left, that size change is observable in the lookahead path. Therefore, in the lookahead path, we can use that final size to also calculate what the positions will be for each of these items, and then animate them towards the new position. Whereas on the right side, we are doing sort of a animate float as state style animation to animate the weight in order to achieve the size change. And in that case, the animations are more self-contained in each of these items. There's no way to have a global view of what that final state is going to look like for each of these items. So as you can see, the animation is more reactive. So as the items grow in a row that can be contained in this row, then some items move down, and then as there's more growth, then some more items move down. It looks a little indecisive. So yeah, I think you'll agree with me that the one on the left might be a slightly better user experience.
It might be, unless maybe there are some specific things for which animating the weight might make more sense. I don't know. But it sounds like, yeah, in general, you probably want to do the animate bounds one.
Yeah, you definitely have the option to choose between the two. Now it's just one more option.
Yes.
And speaking of options, now we have different options for animating size. The option one is sort of this animate content size style clip rect animation. If you look at on the left, if you look at the text, you'll see the text immediately lays out to the final size, while the clip around the text is animating. And now the new option is to animate the constraints. We've shown a full screen code snippet for animating constraints, and that animating constraints is used on both the left demo and the right demo. You can see the column is changing its width and resizing everything that's within. On the right side, it might be more prominent because the text is reflowing every frame. On the left, the buttons, if you pay attention to the reply and reply all buttons, you'll see that they're shrinking as the container gets smaller and smaller and growing with the container as well. And that's what we can do with the animating constraints. So these are the different options. Obviously, for text, it might make more sense to do this animate content size style animation. And whereas in some other cases, the animating constraints would give you a more visually pleasing experience.
I have to say, I'm pretty impressed that it manages to reflow text during an animation and being smooth.
That's
Like,
actually
that's chapeau.
yeah. I was thinking the same thing. The text part is very nice. It's very nice. It's one of those things like I am happy that we have it. Because you are always thinking about on the other side of the fence how they do things on the other side, right? And they always have this kind of, oh yeah, it just works, right? And then you try to do it on Android, it's like, oh yeah, it kind of, it jumps, and they are always gonna point you out of the, oh, it jumps. But now the one on the right, oh man, that's so fluid. Oh, look at that. Oh man, so nice. So nice. I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, that's how we do it on Android now. So thank you, Doris. That's very nice.
Sounds like we
Very
have a
nice.
preference on reflowing the text.
Well, on the text part is perfect. I like the buttons that reside on the left one, but the text that resides on the right example, it's very nice. It's very nice. It's very pleasant.
Keep in mind though, as the text resides, it will push down its siblings one line at a time. So you won't be able to get a vertical smooth change, position change.
I guess compromise, trade-offs.
Yeah, that's a caveat.
Yeah, but it reflows, Doris. It reflows.
Yeah, look at that, man. Look at that.
Oh man, it's really nice.
Sorry, keep jumping ahead.
What else do we have? What else?
You're just teasing us at this point. Just keep it
Oh,
to the
sure.
next slide. No,
How many
no.
slides?
Later.
How many slides?
Keys.
How many slides does he share? I don't know. How many slides? Is it on? Is it over? Is more stuff? How many slides?
Well, you will have to wait and see.
No.
Another thing that we're exploring, I also want to stress on exploring here, is this concept of stickable layout. Because look-ahead layout gives us, the final sizes and positions, we think it's possible, it's feasible technically, for us to interpolate between two layouts. Say you have two layouts and then some shared elements that you tag. We should be able to have the old layout kind of exit that's based on the progress, and then the new layout coming in is based on the progress. And then in the same time, the more interesting thing is, because we know for each of the shared elements, we know the starting bounds and the ending bounds, we can morph them from one rectangle to another rectangle, and potentially changing the constraints of anything that's inside of that shared element along the way. On the left, we have such an example. The shared elements in this case are the toolbar itself. So you see the size change. All of the icons are shared elements, so their placements are changing from the collapsed their position in the collapsed layout and to the position in the fully expanded layout. And also all notes, the text is changing. So, and then on the right, it's just it's a fancier example of the same concept, where we have again a sort of a collapsed look and the expanded look with shared elements. The background is a shared element, and the foreground content is also another shared element. And then because we know the before and after sizes and positions, we can morph them.
So they are asking in the chat if the examples here would somehow be doable in Compose without stickable layout, or because I know for views you would use motion layout for this kind of thing, right? So stickable layout would be kind of similar in the use case where you use motion layout with gestures, right?
Yeah. Could it be possible without stickable layout? Stickable layout is built on top of look-ahead layout. So you could, once we have the shared elements to kind of match up the different elements between the two layouts, you could in theory build something like this on top of look-ahead layout. So the whole point of introducing look-ahead layout is that as we're exploring the opportunities to leverage whatever look-ahead layout offers. The developer community could also look at what look ahead at what what you can build.
Pun intended.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
I had a smaller question on the example on the right-hand side because to me it's interesting because it's like it's an expanding header on top of what is clearly a lazy layout there, right? I've done some experiments with animating lazy layouts, and one of the problems I've seen is that because it subcomposes items that are off screen don't exist essentially when they are off screen. Kind of like it would do with Recycler View in the past, but then I know that you can do some animations with Recycler View because you can tell it to create the item that is not visible yet in order to animate it in. Is this something that the Stickable layout would also need to do? I guess so, right?
You mean to pre-compose?
Yeah, to
item.
pre-compose items that are off screen to bring them in. For example, like when it's compressing back up, you would have to create the two bottom items outside of the actual viewport of the lazy layout.
That's a great question. So if the one of the biggest advantages for look-ahead layout is that your future position is observable. So in this particular case, if you have a look-ahead layout that is some ancestor of the lazy column, then the lazy column can see, oh, here's my future size, and here's how much items I need to show. So let me get those items ready. It's no longer a self-contained animation that's just within the Stickable layout. If you put that look-ahead layout much higher in the hierarchy, then anything in that hierarchy can see that this is going to be the future changes.
Oh, nice. That's really cool. Thank you.
All right, this is the last. Last but not least. We are also looking at device rotation use cases. We're thinking, wouldn't it be nice if we could have window manager take care of rotating and resizing the window surface, rotating the status bar and navigation bar along the way, and all there is for apps to worry about can just be simply swapping between the portrait layout and landscape layout, and maybe marking some shared elements along the way, so then we can morph these shared elements from one layout to another. So I have a dream.
We do all.
So this is sort of a more of a longer term aspiration, because this would require participation from the window manager team, or at least changes on the window animation level, which is going to be a framework change. All right.
So
any questions?
they're asking in the chat if, in this case, they would have to handle the activity rotation by ourselves, given that it's at the Compose level and not at the OS level.
By handle activity rotation yourself, I'm guessing they mean that they need to load in different layouts for the orientation.
I guess they're talking about putting the config changes attribute in the manifest and then react to the configuration changes.
Yes, that would be required, because otherwise the activity will just tear down and then recreate the activity with the new layout. You won't really have that continuity between the previous orientation and the new orientation.
Okay. Thank you for the list of explorations. First of all, because I'm very glad that you're sharing these things with us, even though they're clearly still work in progress. But I'm personally very excited about all these things that are coming. And I would say should we look at the slide to see what's coming from the audience? If you folks have any questions, just put the link to the Slido in the chat. Just go there, ask your questions, and vote other people's questions because we will answer them in order of upvotes. So if there's anything you particularly care about, go and upvote it. You don't need to register, it's fine.
Oh, before we move on,
Yes.
I see a question in the live chat.
Yes.
How do nested lookahead layouts work? That's a great question. We actually have specifically optimized for that case so that even when there's nested lookahead layouts, we only do one lookahead pass. We would, if I go back to, let's see.
Oh, let me share your screen again. Okay.
Cool. If you remember this particular slide, where we check whether we're looking at a lookahead layout root, and this root is defined as the top level lookahead layout. So we would only add this additional pass when the lookahead layout is at the very top level. So the additional child level lookahead layouts will just be getting the lookahead pass from the parent. So if we have multiple nested lookahead layouts, you won't be getting, 2 to the nth number of passes.
Okay. Let me very briefly switch back to sharing my screen so that we can actually take on the questions. Okay, so question number 1. I am going to share my screen with you on Skype as well, Ivan and Doris. So you see what I'm looking at. So first question, lazy row animations and pull to refresh animations like Snapchat. I guess there's like the latter half of the question missing here, but implies, is this something that's coming or something that is possible, I guess?
For the lazy row animation, I'm assuming this is for removal of items.
Yeah.
I was actually just chatting with Andrei Kulikov earlier this week about removal animations. It's a very challenging problem, but we're looking at this problem again with a kind of a different perspective. Currently, the thinking is maybe we could store the removed items in a layer and only show the content at the draw stage, sort of as an intermediate stage, even after the items have been removed. So in other words, we can perhaps track what are the items that have been removed but haven't finished the animation yet in lazy column or lazy row ourselves instead of kind of offloading that burden to developers. So that's one of the things that we're thinking of. As for the pull to refresh animations like Snapchat, that one looks kind of like the Stickable layout example that I was showing. So hopefully, by the time we have Stickable layout or something similar to it ready, this could be possible.
Got it. Thank you. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Okay, next question. What roadmap for animations can you share with us? What's coming soon or in the future that you're super hyped for? Should I do the obvious reminder, everyone? There's things that they cannot share. I think if we were at I/O, Doris would be saying something like, "We do not comment on future plans" or something. But we're amongst friends here.
Yeah, the explorations that I just shared are things that are in the working. I'm hoping most of them will eventually materialize. But yeah, that's what I can share, and also shared elements. That's the obvious one.
I'm very much looking forward to all of those things because you cannot have enough animations. Does this or will this work with the navigation library?
Great question. So the intention is for going forward for animated content. Yeah, animated content to be built on top of look-ahead layout. And since navigation is built on top of animated content, the animation for the animation for navigation is built on top of animated content, we're hoping that they could get the superpower from look-ahead layout kind of indirectly.
That would be the best kind of thing where you're just like, oh yeah, by the way, by doing this, we fixed these other 20 things that we were waiting for a fix for.
Yeah, we're hoping now to introduce new concepts like every level. That's why we kind of want to push the idea for look-ahead layout. So if everyone understands roughly how it works on a high level, then the hope is, again, I'm stressing on the hope. The hope is then in some of the higher level application use cases, you can, such as animated content and navigation, you can get at least some sense of unified concepts from those APIs.
Nice. The next question is if you can tell us about some best practices for smoother animations in general, talking about performance.
Yes. That's a really great question. So for animations, I think from what I've seen in the code on GitHub, lots of examples on GitHub, is that there are some inadvertent recomposition happening as a result of the animation. So the rule of thumb here is try not to cause recomposition with animations, and there are so many different ways to cause this. For example, if you're animating a color and you're reading that color in composition, even though you don't really use that in composition, it will cause repeated recomposition every frame during the animation. And composition is much more expensive than just redrawing. So we'll end up doing a lot more work than necessary and potentially causing some performance issues. And another really common thing that I see people do is they'll, instead of using the graphics layer modifier, I'm seeing translation alpha being animated using the alpha and the I think there's a translation modifier, scale modifier. Those modifier, the kind of single purpose modifier, they are reading the value in composition. So instead of only evaluating draw when you change alpha or translation scale, anything that's the property of a graphics layer, if you use those single purpose modifiers for animation purposes, then you'll definitely see the recomposition happening over and over during the animation. So that's also another thing to avoid. You can perhaps inspect the composition, look at the composition counter, and see how many compositions are happening in order to try to delay that read, or animation value read to a later stage. So we know that there are the composition stage, the layout stage, and then the draw stage. If you can have the animation value read bypass composition or maybe even layout, then you will get the most performance out of the animation. Oh, another tip, I think that's also documented in there's a performance blog post on DAC, is that sometimes we're reading state values in order to then convert a more fine-grained state change into a coarse-grained state change. Like for example, we're looking at the scroll, the scroll value, how much we have scrolled, in order to convert that into a Boolean value to decide whether we should show or hide something. Instead of reading that value in composition and potentially causing the repeated recomposition rather frequently, it's recommended to put that in a derived state of. So we'll only recompose when that more coarse-grained state change happens.
I am getting the links to this stuff into the chat. So for everyone, that could be your reference points. Okay, perfect. So I think the recomposition counter is something you get in the layout inspector, starting with electric eel, right? Or maybe it's dolphin. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't
Where's
remember.
Chris? We need Chris.
Is it not documented in the
It probably is. I'm just not gonna look it up live. As a reminder, I put that on the chat as well, just in case. But we did a chat with Doris about I think at the beginning after the summer break last year. I put the link in the chat. There was a bunch of discussion about performance there as well. I think some of the things we mentioned were also covered there, but we spent a lot of time talking about performance. So if you want, you can also reference the old episode and catch up on that part. Let me check if the chat has anything to add to this. So Stylianos was asking clarification about what do you mean by recomposition. If you mean try to do it in the layout or placement pass.
Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't quite get the question.
By not causing recompositions, do you mean to try and do it in the layout or placement pass?
Yes, precisely. Try to defer the state read as late as possible, preferably right before you use it.
So ideally, purely visual stuff goes in the draw phase. Stuff that changes the layout or the measurement should be done after the recomposition, and things that change the composition obviously need to be done at the composition time.
Yes.
And then there was a last thing. Also, a very common thing I've seen is not wrapping the derived state of in a remember, which also invalidates the usefulness of it in the scope if the scope recomposes.
Yep.
I think there should at least be a lint warning for this, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if we have one, but if we don't, there should be one.
Yeah, I can think of no cases where using derived state of outside of a remember is the right thing to do. But yeah, anyway, that was a good point. Yeah, I don't think there's a lane for it. Okay, we need to get Tor. Tor! There's a lane check missing. Okay, so let's mark this as answered and move to the next one. Will look-ahead layout support subcompose layout? If yes, do you have an ETA? Again, you do not ask about ETAs. They're ready when they're ready.
The answer is yes. Yes, I am actively working on supporting subcompose layout. There's some challenges there because the assumption for subcompose layout is that you do composition based on the constraints that are passed to you. And as we know with look-ahead layout, there are two passes for measurement. And we can often end up having two different constraints passed to subcompose layout within the same frame. Therefore, having two different compositions in that same frame, potentially causing problems. Most likely causing problem rather. So we're trying to work out a way to resolve that. But right now, it's the path forward is not super clear yet. So we're doing some investigation on that.
Cool. By the way, I think Ivan just put in the chat, but Compose 1.2 is now stable. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Woohoo!
I know that they are doing the releases when we are live on purpose.
Yeah,
It's not just a coincidence.
I don't want to sound like a jerk, but not that we care about stable stuff because we are always using the last nightly build because Sebastiano lives on the edge. So
Hey, it's not my fault we use stuff that is experimental.
He's building straight from Leyland laptop. That's how we bleeding it. We are not even getting it on Maven. He's just getting the AAR from Leyland right away. But yeah, so stable stuff. I mean,
Stable.
if you are not brave enough that you want to use the stable stuff, yeah, go for it. I mean, I'm kidding.
So, by the way, because someone was mentioning in the chat that they're still fighting against Hilt, because we were having some issues with Hilt last week, but I managed to fix it yesterday. So, PSA, if your Hilt installation, the KAPT plugin explodes for no reason or no apparent reason, make sure that you check that you don't have the there's a Hilt lifecycle something dependency that used to be needed. It's not needed anymore, but it still exists. And if you leave that in your build, it will break the build, even though it's not used. How that works, I have no idea, but it happens. So if you see that you have this problem, go and double check. And if you do have it, try removing it. It fixed the problems that we were having last week for me. So fingers crossed. Okie doke. So let's take another question. How do you write or use animations? Do you have them in a separate function or inside of the composable that will be using them?
Yeah, I think this one is perhaps a personal preference plus the need to test. So
Right.
I tend to, or I'm more inclined to write the animations right at where I'm using it. But if you animate the value somewhere else and pass the animated value to the function, then that makes that function more testable. So it is a kind of a personal preference plus the requirement for testing.
So I guess you can also use the fact that you're passing the value, the animated value in to create previews at different stages of the animation. So if you pull the actual animation out and wrap the animated content by passing the animated value in, would allow you to create, for example, previews at different stages of, I don't know, expanding or contracting an item, for example.
Right, for animated content specifically, yeah. There was something that I wanted to say, but I forgot. Don't worry.
Sorry, my bad.
No worries.
I would add to that in general, to me, if it's something like small and self-contained, especially if you don't need to use transition, but you're using like a single by animated something, it's fine to have it side by side. Just extracting things make things more complicated than anything else. Obviously, if you start having big transitions, maybe you want to have a function that builds the transition. But then again, all the places where you derive states from the transition, you're going to have them close to where you use them anyway. So I guess I don't want to say it depends, although it kind of does. I know I'm terrible. So what if an animation value is needed on multiple composables deep down the tree? Is it best to pass the value down or make an observable of some sort? And I would add to this, which kind of observable would you do? Like, would you pass the, because you still need to pass the value down somehow, right?
I suspect the observable that's being talked about here might be the composition local, so you don't have to pass anything in that case. Although that is highly not recommended.
Yeah.
Because that is a really implicit dependency, and it could potentially cause a lot of headache when you try to debug why am I recomposing so many times, and I'm not really accepting anything that's changing in my parameter list, but because of this implicit dependency on something else that's way up the tree, it would be very difficult to debug. And also, it will make the composable not super testable also because there's additional dependency.
What people in the chat are saying, and I tend to agree with them, is that if you need to grab like read state that is only needed later, then you can pass down a lambda that provides that value. That's fine. Although I'm not sure that was the original question. Maybe whoever asked it can provide a clarification on that if they're here. Otherwise, they can ask on Twitter, I guess, when they see this. So let me mark that as answered, kind of. When should we make animations with Compose, and when should we rely upon APIs like Lottie or Rive? Is there any performance difference?
Oh, good question. So when you have something that is very bespoke, very how would you describe that? Fancy designer driven. So and self-contained, then consider using Lottie. And Rive, I think that is something similar, but for also a cross-platform kind of a framework. So, but in terms of performance, we can't really promise anything for the non-compose tools, for third-party tools. But with Compose, we check on, we kind of really try to squeeze any last drop of performance juice out of it as we can. Although we do talk to Lottie when we notice anything that any performance issues that could be improved. Haven't really talked to Rive before.
You can ask the Flutter guys. They're in good relationship with the right people. Jokes aside, I think I would add maybe one thing to this, where I would like to underline that it's two very different use cases: the ones you would use Lottie or Rive, and the ones you would use the Compose animation APIs. Unless you are drawing directly on the canvas in Compose and then you're using the animation API to animate what you're drawing on the canvas, fine, that then might overlap with what you would do in Lottie or Rive. But Lottie and Rive, you would have some like fancy animated iconography or some illustration or some non-functional animation, I think is the right word for this. Whereas with Compose, you would probably be animating UI elements, which obviously you cannot do with Lottie and Rive, because you would have to physically grab the composable and animate it in Lottie and in Rive, which you cannot do because they're living in a different universe entirely. So yeah, I guess that is the main difference in my eyes. Is just different use cases. Like Rive, Lottie, animated vector drawables, they do one thing. They are there to make things look nicer, but not functional things. Whereas instead, the stuff that Doris and her team work on are for functional stuff. Is that a fair assessment, Doris?
Yeah. Yes. For Lottie and Rive, they're better for the more self-contained, kind of rich graphics animation. Whereas if you need everything to coordinate together, then I suppose Lottie could also do that, since it can also be controlled with progress. But yeah, if the animation involve different pieces of UI elements, perhaps the Compose animation would be a better fit.
But at the same time, if you have something like a Stickable layout and you have your Lottie animation or your Rive animation that are Stickable, you can combine the two things to, say, animate that specific visual element that Lottie or Rive are in charge of at the same time as you're animating the rest of your UI. That's another use case for look at layout we found. Okay, let's get to the next one, which is how often do you expect devs to actually use or have to use look ahead layout instead of some easier to use abstraction? And are you aiming to eliminate these such cases, I guess, by providing more high level stuff?
Good question. So how often do I expect developers to use look-ahead layout directly? There are use cases where using look-ahead layout directly could be beneficial. Say if you're building a shared element transition yourself, or if you're building some interesting animation mechanism directly on top of intermediate layout and the unplaced modifier. You kind of have to use those two modifiers directly instead of building on top of the existing sort of high-level convenient APIs. Because the convenient APIs, while it provides you with the convenience, it also kind of limits the possibilities. So yeah, if you're doing something that is very unique, that is not one of the common cases that we think of to have packed into the convenient APIs, then you wouldn't need to use it directly. But I wouldn't think that to be a common case. So in other words, maybe library developers would consider using look-ahead layout directly to build layout animations. And the abstractions, the more convenient APIs, as I mentioned, they do kind of limit the possibilities. So we try in Compose, we try to make sure that the high level, the convenient APIs encompass most of the common use cases. So developers can stay on the happy path for as long as as possible until they need to reach for something that is very unique. In which case you can always drop down a layer and go for look-ahead layout directly.
The Compose way. Pretty much. I mean, that's the beauty of Compose and the whole system, is that you can stay up to the top level where your life is much, much easier than anything else until you need to do something very different from what you get for free, and then you just go one level down. But you don't go 5 levels down. You can just go maybe 1 or 2 depending on what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And then we will definitely be building additional modifiers, animation modifiers potentially based on look-ahead layout. So if you want to have a look-ahead layout directly, you could still use the convenient modifiers.
So there are the kids modifier. That's where I'm, and then there are the fancy modifiers. Basically where Sebastiano steps in. There's the Ivan level, and then the Sebastiano level. And then you sort of Mark Ellison's level. It's like a chain of darkness. The more you go, and the deeper it gets. I'm on the baby level, animation.
I don't know. I see it as going towards light and enlightenment more than going down.
Well, I'm pretty sure that it depends. Believe me.
I see what you did there.
It's like the abyss. At some point, it's the abyss that starts looking at you, and then like local composition or whatever that, and Chucks comes in. The guy traumatized me. The snapshot thing is. I'm still getting nightmares. I'm kidding. I love the guy. And yeah, Sebastiano, we have one last question.
Yes, let's tackle the last question, which is there any way in Compose to do animation in a 3D object form, like a cube animation?
A cube animation? What do you animate exactly for a cube?
I don't know if they mean like a texture cube or something like that. But there is no Z axis, right?
That's a great question. I thought there was a translation Z in the graphics layer.
But that would be the elevation, right?
Yeah. So I don't remember how you would control the camera in Compose.
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll have to
Because
look that up.
I remember, for example, when you wanted to do sort of like a cube transition animation in the view system, what you would do is you would fake it, because you would use a fake perspective to make it look like it's actually turning the edge of a cube, but it's just scaling and rotating the 2D views, because the views were only existing as planes in a 2D space, so you had to fake it to make it work. Maybe something like that would also go for Compose, because I guess at the end of the day, still planes, right?
Yeah, I don't know whether we have plans in that direction, but
Oh, Unity
file
and
future.
Compose. You've heard it first here.
I mean, yeah, it's how is there is a thing that Roman is working like filament. How is
Filament,
called, right?
yeah.
That stuff that I mean, it's you put that, you put Compose, and basically you get a real engine, and that's it, right? And then it's like, okay, so we are running games on this thing now.
Yeah, that would be a very impressive project to explore. I don't think there's.
I call dibs. If you get a bonus or something, I need a percentage. I mean,
Even we're here to save money to people, not to steal money from people.
No, I earned it. I earned it. I gave her the idea for the project. So it's I don't know anything about the execution. I will never understand anything, but I'm the creative person.
Oh yeah, you're the ideas guy. I see.
I'm the Steve
Steve
Jobs kind of, I'm the Steve Jobs of the situation.
Oh Lord.
And it escalated quickly.
Just a bit. Before we go on, given that I just mentioned we are here to give shit away, why don't we give some shit away?
Gracias, Mark, para el Ivano, el movimiento del Ivano. Doris, I'm sorry for this. So I'm gonna speak Spanish for a few seconds. Yeah, for no apparent reason. So, gracias todos. Damn it, man, it's hot. So let's cut it short. Mark, gracias. El tiempo es muy calor. No puedo hablar español ahora. So that's it. Get it done. So let's run some giveaway before I collapse because I'm hot and dehydrated. So we are running the giveaway. I'm just gonna post the link for the last time, so maybe somebody can still jump on the giveaway. We are gonna run the stickers and the DroidCon ticket. Sebastian, what do you think?
Let's do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give you another 3 seconds, and then I'm gonna run it.
Wow, 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
So very generous of you.
That's good. Look at it. See, they actually try. You see, I mean, these people, right? These people. So, let's make this happen. Pick a winner. I also fixed the backend, Sebastiano. Are you proud of me? I fixed the JavaScript. So
I also love how you fix it in production during the live stream.
Last week I fixed it in production when we had Alex over or something. And I was like, yeah, I mean JavaScript, man, no TypeScript, no David. So congratulations, Daniel. That was a good return of investment. They just subscribed and they got a ticket. This stuff always happens. I don't know, but yeah, Daniel, I'm gonna reach out to get your address for the stickers, and we are gonna send you the code for the DroidCon New York. As always, if you can't go, you just let us know. We will arrange something else. Okay. And for everybody that is gonna watch this as a VOD on YouTube, what do we want to pick, Sebastiano? What word we want to pick?
So
Doris, suggest a word that we are gonna use for the giveaway. So people are gonna type the word as a comment on YouTube below this video when we release it tomorrow, and next week we are gonna raffle the ticket. So you can pick the word, whatever you want.
The word.
yeah,
Yes.
the keyword
Compose.
compose. Sure, done. I approve of this choice.
Compose it is. So
Perfect.
the word is gonna be compose. I'm gonna just tweet it tomorrow with the video. But
Yes,
if you're
look
watching
ahead.
this,
Can I change my mind? Sorry.
yes, sure.
Can I do look ahead? I think Mark Allison had the
Perfect.
greatest.
So the word is going to be look ahead. So if you already commented it, you can edit the comment because this is not Twitter. So YouTube, you can do this kind of stuff. So you can edit a comment like normal people, right? And this is it, Sebastiano.
I just want to say you have time until the 5th of August at some point during the day, probably around my lunchtime when I will bother to do this. So you have a few days. The VOD comes out tomorrow. So yeah, if you're looking at this and it's not the 5th of August yet, then you're in luck. You can still try. Otherwise, there's still a discount code somewhere. I think. Even can you put the discount code in the description of the YouTube video as well?
Oh yeah, the description below, like the people on YouTube. Check the description below.
It's crazy because we're doing this almost as if we were sponsored, but we're not. We're just terrible at this shit. It's like we're doing this for free.
No, we're not getting any money anyway. So the only money that we get is from you supporting us with Twitch or with coffee, and so there is no, because I mean I can prove this because there is a checkbox on YouTube that if you get a sponsorship you need to check, and we don't have that, so we don't get any money. Sebastiano, what are you doing? I see code. I don't know if people see.
No, I'm not sharing. I'm not sharing that yet.
Smash
there
the
was
like button. Yes.
There was a question.
Mark, you are very on. We are on spot.
Given we have a few minutes, there was a question in the chat a few minutes ago from Stylianos. Can we also see if we can now get back to the first sample? I think it was the first sample. And see how the call site would actually look like. Still kind of a blur for me after the discussion. So Doris, if you want to share your screen again, so we can go, or I can share it. I have the link to the slides. Just need to get that.
Yeah,
perfect.
I remember there was a modifier that was getting an argument, and he was asking, "Where do I get it?"
Yeah, exactly.
It was.
There was the look ahead scope. I think it was.
Yeah, something scope. Yeah, here you go. Perfect, Sebastian.
So it was the look ahead scope. Yeah, oops. So yeah, the look ahead scope that you have here, and then you get passed in. If you were to use the animate constraint modifier somewhere, how would you obtain that? Is that something that is captured by the look ahead layout lambda?
The look ahead layout, yeah, the look ahead layout will pass that receiver scope to all of the children. It is it might be helpful to look at the look ahead layout API. Do you have the DAC?
I think I do. Yes, there it is.
Yeah.
So
the content lambda.
Yeah.
Gets look at layout scope as a receiver.
And
so anything that. Yep.
I was just looking at the fields. There's so much code. I mean, it's good that there's so much code, but it's just hard to find stuff. Okay. No.
Oh, what are you trying to do?
I'm looking for where the lookahead scope is provided by the lookahead layout scope. It's just this, because it's an interface, right? But
Yeah.
public functions, I only have intermediate layout and on place, which are the modifiers. But this doesn't provide the look ahead scope by itself.
I think it's a look. Yeah, this look at layout scope. Look ahead scope is just a name for that parameter, but type is look at layout scope. So you get that scope while
Right. Okay.
being the children of look at layout.
So by just being in this, you are capturing the receiver, which is a scope.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Which I guess just means that the modifier will look something like blah 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 blah, and past this. Look ahead layout.
Yep.
So yeah, that would be how it works. I hope that answers the question, Stylianos. And I don't know if we're supposed to be looking at what you're looking right now. This? Yeah, it's fine. Oh, sorry. You're right. I was not sharing the screen. So my bad. Whoops. Yeah, so recap, because I forgot to share the screen. Yes, so if you look ahead layout, the content is composable that takes a receiver, is a lambda that takes a receiver of look ahead layout scope, which is what you then pass, and then your call site will look like this, where this is your modifier, and you just pass this as the parameter there. My bad, sorry. I should have kept more an eye on what I was showing. Whoops. My bad. Okay. So I don't think we have time to implement anything. I don't know, Doris, if there's any quick sample that you want to cover, or is there anything I can find on AOSP? Or
yeah, if you're interested, you could look at the animate bounds implementation on AOSP. I think that you could potentially just locally patch that because it doesn't really rely on any changes in the look at layout.
No.
No, that you will have to look at that in Garrett.
Oh, in Garrett. Was that the Garrett CL you shared earlier?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me put the link in the chat for everyone to find. And yes, it is Power Toys I'm using. I do use Alfred on macOS, but so what we're talking about is this, because Doris is working in the open on a bunch of things. And that's why she can share the experiments, because if you go and do some spelunking into Garrett, you can actually see the code that she's working on. So in this case specifically, we are looking at the this modifier here, right?
Yep.
So the modifier takes in the size animation spec, the position animation spec, and then creates a compose modifier where, okay, you should walk us through the code because I don't know what I'm looking at yet.
So it's very similar to what I showed earlier, where we create animations for size and position, and then have these target offset and target size that we update. And whenever that gets updated, then we create an animation. So earlier I didn't mention why it's structured this way instead of using the animatable directly, and that's because sometimes we could have multiple measure calls happening. So we don't want to with different sizes, and we don't necessarily want to accidentally call animate to unanimatable with different targets within the same frame, because in that case the previous animation will be interrupted. So say you're animating the animatable to you want to animate that to 100, but for some reason there is a measurement pass that needs to be done for, say intrinsics or something, that where you're getting a 0. So you will end up calling animatable.animate to 0, and then immediately followed by animate to 100. And when this happens, what will go on is the animatable will interrupt the previous animation that was animating to 100 with a 0 as the new target, and then again and interrupt again with 100 being the target. So we have to do this, and I think going forward we can probably create another concept that is reading only the very last value in the same frame for animatable.
So at the end of computing the frame, you read the state, and then you only execute the animation once.
Yeah.
But for now, you don't have that, so you need to use the launched effect for that.
Yep, exactly.
Got it. That makes sense. Just out of curiosity, it's not linked to this, but if I use a spring animation and I change the target, will it automatically conserve momentum, or will I have to?
Of course, that's the whole point.
Sorry, that was a stupid question. I said at the beginning I was gonna ask stupid questions.
Yeah, that's the whole point of using spring animation. And in fact, if you were using a twin animation to animate in an animatable, and then all of a sudden you call the same animatable .animate to with supplying a new target and a spring animation, that spring animation will read the existing value and velocity and create an animation that starts with that starting condition.
Oh, nice.
So you preserve the momentum and also the value.
I am being trolled on the chat. Fine. Okay, sorry for interrupting with stupid questions. Someone had to do it. I'm the only one that has the courage to.
Yeah. Take one for the team.
Yes. Very much on purpose. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Sebastiano, you know that there are no stupid questions. There are just infinite ways of making fun of you. So that's the
I've just resigned myself to the fact that I'm gonna be made fun of in some way or another, but that's fine. I can take it.
It's a very healthy environment.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So I just wanted to ask one last thing here on this. So I see you're using an intermediate layout before the modifier you're passed in, and then you're getting on placed, and then you have another intermediate layout. Now, I haven't looked at the actual code, but why do you need to do this split up like this?
That's a really, really great question.
You are averaging at 0, Sebastiano.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Fair enough.
I also wanted to clarify the previous question was also a great one. That's not really, really great.
She's so kind. She's so kind. Oh man, great guest.
The reason why it's structured this way is because when you have a modifier that changes size, let's have a simple example: changing the size from wrap content to 100 by 100 dp. When you have such a modifier, that effect, so that size is being propagated down to the child, but it's also reported back to the parent. And in order to properly animate that, you need not only the child of the modifier that we're trying to animate to see, the constraints change, the position change. You also need a parent. You also need to report to the parent, an animated size. That's why there needs to be such an intermediate layout sandwich.
Right. Well, I'm sure there's gonna be guidance on how to do this when this becomes stable, because I guess that can be a bit not obvious to understand when you need to do this.
Yeah, that's why I'm creating this modifier. The hope is to kind of encapsulate that details, implementation details, in a convenient API that folks don't need to really worry about those implementation details, and you can just take that and use it directly. That's the hope.
I'm just thinking we need a sticker for like a modifier sandwich or something like that. It's just in my head, it's already like a burger or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I like it. Modifier sandwich. Nice.
Okay, I think I don't want to steal too much time from you, Doris. You've been super, super nice. As always, I have been looking forward to this episode for a while, and I was not disappointed. I have learned many new things, which I'm always happy to. And I hope that everyone in the chat also watching live, watching the VOD are had a good time. If they have any questions that we weren't able to cover, can they? Well, they can find us and you on Twitter, right?
Yes. And I see another question.
Stylianos,
why...
how many questions? And none of those is stupid. Come on. Help me out here.
It's an awesome question. Why does the intermediate layout modifier have a different name than layout modifier? It is called intermediate layout modifier because this modifier doesn't participate in the look ahead. So you can create a bunch of intermediate stages in the intermediate layout modifier, but from the look ahead perspective, it only sees what your target or the modifiers that are influencing your target bounds, sizes, and positions. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Or would you like more detail?
If you want to add anything else, go for it.
I would have to know which part.
Okay, maybe this could be a future episode. I mean, you're always welcome back anytime you want. Maybe the next API we're also going to be covering. I mean, I would love to cover any APIs that you folks come up with, because animations are nice. Okay, it looks like Stylianos is happy with the answer. So let's wrap things up. Ivan, do you want to do the honors?
Yes. Doris, thank you again for coming again to teach us things, to satisfy Sebastiano curiosity and Stylianos. I mean, the guys. I mean, we also gave you a license last week. Just basta. Okay, so how much stuff do you want, Stylianos? Basta. So Doris, jokes aside, thank you again. This is great stuff. It's something that I really appreciate because I'm not the animation guy, and I know that I can become a bit more animation kinda guy with this Jetpack Compose help. I like the fact that the API is gonna get simpler over time to come to my way toward me. It's actually going down to even level. But jokes aside, yeah, this is great. And I think that the fact that we can also have the experiments, I got the link into the episode notes, so you will have probably people pointing out on Twitter the code. So brace. It was great. Sebastiano, thank you as usual for hosting and
and asking all the questions.
And bearing with us. I love the people in the chat for the energy. So it was a great episode. And if you missed it, people, somebody was late in the chat. The VOD is gonna be out right after the show. If you have a subscription to Twitch, you can just check the VOD right away. You can subscribe for free if you have Amazon Prime, or you can wait tomorrow and you will have it on YouTube. Also keep an eye on Twitter, because we are going to run a giveaway for DroidCon New York ticket on YouTube. So this was a great episode.
Yes.
I'm sorry that you missed the dog, but he's struggling. The heat is too much, so I can't.
I hope by the time we come back from the holiday break, Spike will have a bit more breathable situation.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we are going on holiday because, well, I say we're going on holiday. Yeah. We are going on holiday, but it's not just like being in the sun doing nothing. We have plenty of things to do. So we're going to be super busy making new things, preparing. We have so many good things coming after the break. I'm already super excited. So yes, see you in September. I will probably do maybe an improvised live or something next week to announce who's won the other ticket on YouTube, or maybe I'll do a YouTube short. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Wow.
You'll find out.
Do a TikTok. Like
I don't have
kids,
TikTok.
Sebastiano,
I'm sorry. But you'll find out as I do, because I will decide 5 seconds before doing that.
Yes.
Doris, again, thank you very much. And looking forward to seeing you and everyone else soon again. If anything, back here live on in September. Our next stream is going to be on the 14th of September. But obviously, if you're bored in the meantime, we have 75 plus episodes of really great stuff to watch. Well, maybe take out a couple of episodes where I really fuck things up, but when we have guests, all of those are really good. So you can look up our back catalog. I'm sure there's going to be something interesting for you to look at in the meantime. And with this, I'm on holidays. Yes. Well, not from actual work, I guess. Come on. Let me have this. Oh, nice. Thank you, everyone. It's been another great year of this, and I cannot express in words how happy I am that we get to do this. And I really feel like I'm very privileged to have these wonderful people helping us. Okay, I'm gonna cut it short because it sounds very corny, but
Yeah,
I really feel it.
Emotional.
I really feel it. So thank you, everyone, and see you soon. Have a great August. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. I had so much fun. And thank you for inviting me here.
You're always welcome back whenever you want.
Whenever you want.
Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.